Thank you very much. Again, to all of you, we appreciate your being here. To you, Mr. Hicks, as you described what happened that night, it just reminded me of the high cost that is paid by so many of our folk in the diplomatic corps. It also reminded me of their bravery and the fact that you all go around the world in foreign places trying to make a difference. And as I listened to your testimony, I could not help but think about something that I said very recently, well, 2 years ago now, in a eulogy for a relative. I said that death is a part of life, but so often we have to find a way to make life a part of death. And I guess the reason why I'm saying that, I want to go back to something Mr. Nordstrom said when he said that he wanted to make sure that, and all of you have said it pretty much, he wanted to make sure we learn from this so that your comrades and our 4 members of the diplomatic corps who sadly passed away, so that this never happens again. And I appreciate it. I know this is difficult. I know it is. We all feel your pain. And so I just want to, going back to what Mr. Nordstrom said, trying to make sure we have a complete picture. Because there's another piece to this too, and that is that we have some balancing here today to do today. We have to listen to you all, and this is really, really difficult because we've got some statements that have been made, not necessarily by you, but interpreted. While we have to protect you, we also have to protect your fellow employees. In other words, protect is maybe not the right word, but make sure that they're treated fairly. So you understand what I'm saying? The balance. And I'm just trying to make sure I get, in your words, Mr. Nordstrom, a complete picture, that's all. Mr. Hicks, in the interview with the committee staff, you stated, and I quote, "In my personal opinion, a fast mover flying over Benghazi at some point, as soon as possible, might very well have prevented some of the bad things that happened that night." Is that right? Did you say that?
Yes, sir, I did.
And you further stated, and I quote, "I believe if we had been able to scramble a fighter or aircraft to over Benghazi as quickly as possible after the attack commenced, I believe there would not have been a mortar attack on the annex in the morning because I believe the Libyans would have split." Is that right?
Yes, sir.
At a hearing in February before the Senate Armed Services Committee, General Dempsey, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, was asked whether we could have deployed F-16s from Aviano Air Base in Italy, and he explained why we could not. And these are his words, and we're just trying to make sure we get the complete picture here. For a couple reasons, and I quote, this is a quote, "For a couple of reasons. One is that in order to deploy them, it requires this is the middle of the night now. These are not aircraft on strip alert. They're there as a part of our commitment to NATO and Europe. And so as we looked at the timeline, it was pretty clear that it would take up to 20 hours or so to get them there." Mr. Hicks, I understand that you wanted planes to get to Benghazi faster. If I were in your shoes, I would have wanted them to get there yesterday. And that is completely understandable, but the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff said they simply could not get there quickly. Mr. Hicks, do you have any reason to question General Dempsey's testimony before the Senate?
Again, I was speaking from my perspective.
I understand.
On the ground in Tripoli, based on what the defense attaché told me. And he said 2 to 3 hours.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But there were no tankers.
All right.
And I also was speaking with reference to conversations I had had with veteran Libyan revolutionaries and other personnel who had experienced the Libyan revolution and who had told me that the Libyan people were very well aware of, that American and NATO air power had been decisive in their victory. And I was also speaking to their view, again, that Libyans would not stand if they were aware that American aircraft were in the vicinity.
I understand. So former Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta also testified in February, and he said this, and I quote, he said, soon after the initial reports about the attack, the President ordered all available DoD assets to respond to the attack in Libya and to protect U.S. personnel and interests in the region. Some have asked why other types of armed aircraft were not dispatched to Benghazi. The reason is because armed UAVs, AC-130 gunships or fixed-wing fighters with associated tanking, armaments, targeting, and support capabilities were not in the vicinity of Libya, and because of the distance, would have taken at least 9 to 12 hours, if not more, to deploy. This was pure and simple, a problem of distance and time, end of quote. Do you question his testimony?
So again, the defense attaché said to me that fighter aircraft in Aviano would not be able to be over Benghazi for 2 to 3 hours.
Mr.
That's
Cummings,
what I'm going on,
yep.
what the defense attaché told me.
Thank you. And I assure you that in regards to your earlier statement, we will bring in people where we can have that discussion, hopefully with knowledgeable people chosen on both sides of could they or couldn't they. I think it's a good line of questioning, perhaps not for the Ambassador.
Mr. Chairman,
you could certainly have another minute.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. But it's extremely important that I ask these questions because a lot has been put out there in the air, and all these folks aren't here for no reason. And I know we will get those questions answered, but all we have is you today, and I'm glad to have you. But in other words, I'm just trying, again, remember what I said to you all earlier. And everybody on this committee should know this. I try to do everything in my power to protect witnesses. I don't care if they are called by Republicans or Democrats, because your integrity and your reputation is all you got. But I also have some other people whose reputations are being questioned. So I've got to, take what you say, but I also got to consider them too, because I have a duty to both of them. You follow me? Just have one last thing, Mr. Chairman, then I'll finish up. And I'll just close by noting that even the partisan report issued by our 5 Republican chairmen in April, including our good Chairman Issa, cleared the Defense Department. It said this, it says, and I quote, "No evidence has been provided to suggest that these officials refused to deploy resources because they thought the situation had been sufficiently resolved." I'll end there, and out of courtesy to all of our colleagues, and again, I don't know whether we'll get into a second round, but again, I promise you, I promise every one of you, I will do every single thing in my power to make sure, I hope there's no retaliation, but to protect you, because you are so very, very important, and it is your bravery that have brought you here today, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.